Hello, hockey fans, and welcome back to Anatomy of a Season, Part 2 of our look at the 1995-96 Colorado Avalanche. If you haven't checked out Part 1, do so before you see this video. The link is in the upper right corner of the screen and in the description. Check it out right now. And I do apologize for the delay of this video, as things have been pretty hectic this summer, and sometimes in a good way, however. But either way, here's a quick recap of the first video. After 16 seasons in the NHL out of Quebec City, the team moved from Quebec as the Nordiques to Denver, after the team could not survive in their market again. Nothing to do with lack of fan support for those in the back. Hey. Anyway, the team was forced to move to Denver, becoming the Colorado Avalanche for the 1995-96 season, a new conference with new rivals in a hockey market that had failed before. The team, however, which suffered terribly through awful years in the late 80s into the early 90s, were led by superstar, now team captain, Joe Sakic. This year they continued their momentum, however, from the year prior, their last year in Quebec. They once again won their division, and were second best team in the league for the second straight year. Tied their franchise record with best with 47 wins and 104 points set 2 years earlier. Pierre helped put the pieces together during his tenure as GM, but he has been gone now. And the last 2 seasons, Pierre Lacroix has helped put more pieces together to build this team. But in the last 2 seasons as well, Marc Crawford, the young head coach, has added further depth to this club. This year saw Sakic in his 8th season have his best season ever with more than 50 goals and 120 points. Then there was sophomore sensation and Swedish superstar Peter Forsberg. He had a superstar breakout year with 116 points. Also making the difference was some big acquisitions. One included a blockbuster 3-way trade that saw them acquire playoff warrior Claude Lemieux, who's been a welcome asset to the team in one of his best seasons. Valeri Kamensky, who has always been a consistent player and had a huge year as one of his best seasons, was of course a former Soviet sensation, while Scott Young, who had been an asset for a few years himself, continued to do so this year. Adam Denmarsh's role grew with the team this year. Mike Ricci suffered some injuries and lost his scoring touch, but he's ready for the playoffs, while grinders such as veteran Troy Murray and rookie Stefan Yell, who really proved to be an asset in this role, are primed for action. Enforcer Chris Simon has also proven he can do just more than drop the gloves on certain nights. While Mike Keane brings playoff success and experience to the team, something the team felt they needed to put more emphasis on. The defense has had their consistency issues. A lot of that is due to injury. Uwe Kruk got injured in the first game of the season, but returned recently, is healthy and ready for the postseason. The team took a huge risk acquiring Sandy Zozelinch from the Sharks and sacrificing star forward Owen Nolan to do so, while Curtis Lasician, who has suffered through the Nordiques' worst years in misery along with Sakic, had a career year, as did Adam Foote, who emerged as one of the top defensemen on this team. Veteran blue liner Craig Willanen was a key component, as the likes of Alexei Gustafsson and John Clem. But of course, the biggest deal of the year, a huge gamble, acquiring Habs goaltender superstar Patrick Roy. Well, you don't get much more playoff experience than him. All had some hiccups, but overall played well for the Avs, but some say not well enough, and there's still some skepticism that Roy is no longer great, he's simply just really good. Ugh. Also, this franchise hasn't won a playoff series since 1987, and nobody from that team is still playing for the Avalanche. In their last 2 playoff appearances in 1993 and 1995, last season that is, they were beaten in 6 games and were favored to win in both series, both in 93 and 95. Yes, Joe Sakic has yet to taste any postseason success in the 8 seasons he has played for this team, and only has, again, his 3rd playoff appearance to show for it going into this one. And with all the playoff experience, however, they've acquired, well, is this finally time to get to another level? Well, here we go, as now it's officially a playoff time. And for the second best in the West, Avalanche, awaiting them in the first round is the 7th-seeded Vancouver Canucks, who finished 32, 35, and 15 for 79 points, 25 behind the Avs. Not a great season, but after a rough go for much of the season, the Canucks got hot at certain times. And this is their 6th consecutive playoff appearance, and won their regular season division title both in 1991-92 and 92-93. 94, they made an epic run all the way to the 7th game of the Cup final. And the Canucks had some rough goes in the regular season the last couple years, but they won their opening round playoff series, however, last 4 seasons in a row. The team has been run by Pat Quinn, who took over as coach for inept Rick Lee. And the Canucks special teams, however, is lacking on both ends. But either way, the Avalanche won the season series with a record of 3-1-1. The superstar who led them this year was Russian phenom Alexander McGillney. 55 goals, 52 assists, 107 points, was tied for 9th in league scoring, and joined the Canucks this season after 6 successful seasons in Buffalo. He was 3rd in goals, 2nd in even strength goals. He was a second-team All-Star for a second time, and McGillney stepped in for this team in the nick of time as Canucks superstar Pavel Bure has missed all but 15 games this season and isn't ready for the playoffs. He also got votes for the Hart Trophy, came in 4th in Lady Byng Trophy voting as well. However, the heart and soul of this Canucks team was always team captain Trevor Linden, a man who plays with heart in every fiber of his being. He's one of the best leaders in the league, and is no slouch on the score sheet either with 80 points this year. And the Canucks surge in the 90s was built around him, and he finished 5th in Selke Trophy voting as the league's top defensive forward. The Canucks do have forwards that provide a great deal of depth along with Linden, including Russ Corno, who led the team with a great plus 25, but also notched 26 goals and has 65 points. And the Canucks do have a warrior and a little giant known as Cliff Ronning. Also, they have a great deal of playoff depth with Martin Jelena, the 3-time Stanley Cup winner Esa Tikkanen. Also, veteran center Mike Ridley lends some substance. Of course, you have Tokai fan favorite Gino Ojek, veteran Jim Sandlak, and new acquisition, a kid by the name of Marcus Naslund. Dana Murzin leads the Canucks defense along with talented likes of Jyrki Lumme. The blue line is not one of their strong points, however, but they also have Brett Hedican, Adrian Aucoin, Frank Kucera, and Leif Rowland. However, these playoffs, the Canucks are going with Corey Hirsch, who had a better season than the Canucks' starting goaltender the last 8 seasons, Kirk McLean. The two split goaltending duties. Hirsch had 17 wins, a good 2.93 goals against average, and a really good .903 save percentage and a shutout. Some would say this is a risky move considering McLean's playoff experience, however. Here we go. Game 1 at McNichols Sports Arena, April 16, 1996. The first Stanley Cup playoff game in that arena since April 13, 1978, which at this point was the only playoff game in the NHL played in that arena, as the Rockies slipped into the playoffs by some miracle, only to be swept in 2 games by the Flyers. Waugh is in net, and he is ready, while McLean actually does get the start in this one. So here we go. Early on, both teams are pressing. The Canucks strike first on a goal from Cornell. The Avs finally get some momentum as Claude Lemieux begins a play that follows Adam Foote to set up Peter Forsberg, and the game is tied 1-1 after 1. 28 seconds into the second period, UA Krupp uses his defensive savvy to get the puck as Scott Young helps set up Burnaby Joe. The Avs have the lead 2-1. And just a mere 25 seconds later, Peter to Kamensky. It's now 3-1 Avalanche, and Kirk McLean's night and his playoffs are done. Waugh is turning back everything as the Canucks press hard to get back in this thing, but around the midway point on the power play, Kamensky anchors, Forsberg takes the wheel, and back to Ozolic, who launches it home, and the Avs are running away with the lead 4-1. Just 2.5 minutes later, playoff savvy Esa Tikkanen gets the Canucks back on the board and cut the lead in half to 4-2. But not long after, the power play unit goes to work again. Val to Claude to Peter the Great. It's 5-2 Avalanche after 2. The rest of the way was superb. No way, Naslund. Close call, Cliff. No goal, McGillney. And that's how it would remain. 5-2 win after game 1. Wow, Peter Forsberg plays his best postseason game at this point in his career, an epic night. 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. Kamensky also putting on a career playoff performance. 1 goal, 2 helpers for 3. While Claude Lemieux's playoff experience comes through with 3 helpers. Waugh looked great despite concerns. 29 saves on 31 shots. And the Avalanche take an all-important 1-0 series lead and look sharp. Game 2 in Denver. Corey Hirsch gets the start for the Canucks. Just under a minute in, Kucherov begins. Kamensky continues, and Forsberg scores. Continues momentum from the first game. But 2 minutes later, Canucks tough guy Gino Ojek scores a rare goal to tie it all up. But less than 2 minutes later, Keane on the check. Gets the puck. Gets it to Krupp, who sets it in motion. And Mike Ricci scores to give the Avs a 2-1 lead. McGillney, however, ties it 1:17 later. But less than 4 minutes later on the power play, it's Simon to Young. Back to the man anchoring it all, Ozo! The Avs lead 3-2, and we're only at the midway point of the first period. Waugh and Hirsch start turning shots back, however, and it remains that way at the end of the first. In the second period, the Avs can't solve Hirsch, and the Canucks tie it up and then take the lead. The Avs are stunned and their backs are against the wall suddenly, trailing 4-3 after 40 minutes. In the third period, it does not get much better, as the Canucks take a 2-goal lead, but then at the midway point of the frame, Kucherov has it, Kamensky takes it, and the Russian duo set up Burnaby Joe. The Avs get the lead to 5-4. The Avs are pressing for the equalizer, but it does not happen. Oh boy, the Avs take some media heat for this one. The defensive game takes some flack, especially Lefebvre and Foote. Also, star Joe Sakic had a rough outing on this one. Kamensky played well, as did Kucherov, and Waugh also takes a fair bit of flack here. And at the end of it, the Avs split their first 2 home games as the ghosts of last year seem to be haunting this club. Game 3, we shift to Vancouver, and GM plays the towels are waving, but Waugh looks fierce in that mask. and he's facing pressure early on and staring at it head on. And Corey Hirsch is also looking solid, but the Avs go on a power play, and 12 seconds into the extra man advantage and anchoring it. Oh yeah, from the blue line, it's Krupp to Ozo, who launched in the vicinity of Peter Forsberg, and the Avs lead 1-0. The checking prowess of Mike Keane is helping keeping the likes of McGillney at bay. But the few time he gets to Waugh, the star goalie turns it back, channeling his energy from 1993. The 1-0 lead sticks after one. Then in the second period, Linden and others try, but Waugh isn't budging. And on another power play is Sakic to Ozo to Kamensky. It's 2-0 Avs. Just over 4 minutes later, the Canucks' undisciplined play continues to bite them. Another power play, it's Peter to Val to Claude Lemieux. His first goal of these playoffs, 3-0 Colorado leads after 2. Waugh is ready for anything that comes his way, and he continues to frustrate the Canucks. Then Simon breaks out with Sakic, and Scott Young scores his first of these playoffs. And the Avalanche take this one 4-0 and take a 2-1 series lead. Waugh answers his critics emphatically, a 28-save shutout, the 6th playoff shutout of his career. Forsberg and Kamensky continue to shine with a goal and assist each. Sakic, who has faced the critics, plays very well with 2 helpers. And Ozo continues to shine with 2 apples himself. The Avs are back in the driver's seat. Game 4, the Avs can take full control of this series while the Canucks are fighting to stay in it. They're throwing a lot at Hirsch early on, but he is turning everything away. And Waugh is continuing his momentum from last game. And with 5:17 to play in the first period, it's the Avs grinding core who strikes. Yell starts it, Ricci continues it, Mike Keane finishes it to give the Avs a 1-0 lead. However, just under 2 minutes later, Tikkanen ties it for the Canucks. It's 1-1 after 1. Early in the second period, Lefebvre clears, Sakic takes it, Denmark scores his first career playoff goal, and the Avs lead 2-0, but the Canucks power play marker ties it. And the Avs defense starts to fold a little bit, as does Waugh. Canucks get 2 more and lead 4-2 after 2. In the third period, Krupp gets to Young, however, who sets up Joe Sakic to close the gap to 4-3. And the Avs are pressing, but Hirsch is a beast. And the Canucks hold on to a 4-3 win and tie this series 2-2. This is somewhat surprising, as many felt the Avalanche would have won this thing by now, but now doubt from the pundits are making waves again. Waugh takes more flack, as does the defense again, but Denmark, who was quiet in the first few games, is breaking out. And also, despite the loss, Sakic is looking like himself. The Canucks defense, however, was good on this night, holding Forsberg to just 1 shot. Also, the Avs were unable to contain McGillney on this one either. The series is tied, and Marc Crawford is facing a lot of questions. Well, Game 5 and the pressure is definitely on the Avalanche in this one. And the injury bug has hit as Craig Willanen will miss this game, and they dress Rennie Corbet for this one. Midway through the first period on the power play, Forsberg and Lemieux are in command, and Sakic scores on their setup, and the Avs strike first. But the Canucks would tie it, and in the first period ended up tied up. The Avs defense has tightened up, and Waugh is given some breathing space. However, Hirsch shines for the Canucks. In the second period, Forsberg takes command of the situation again, as Krupp is able to heave the puck to Kamensky, who makes it 2-1, and the Avs are keeping the Canucks in check, thanks in large part to Ricci. But suddenly late in the frame, Linden scores 2 goals for the Canucks, 127 apart. Just like that, the Canucks lead 3-2 after 2. The arena is silenced as the third period commences, and it's looking bleak for the Avalanche, as the problems they've had in Quebec in recent years are staring them dead in the face again in Denver. Not getting much momentum going, Gustav, however, sends in Rennie Corbet, who scores a huge goal, waking up the McNichols Arena, and we're all tied up at 3-all. But the joy is short-lived. 56 seconds later, Linden completes his hat-trick, 4-3 Canucks. The Avs are pressing, but Hirsch, again, isn't budging. But then on a power play, which is under 6 minutes to play, Krupp and Ozolinsh, they're the wheelmen, and Sakic sails it home, and the arena erupts. We are tied 4-4. The time winds down, and for the first time in this series, we are going to overtime. And it only took 51 seconds as Denmarsh to Ozolinsh to Sakic. He scores Joe's first career playoff hat trick, and what a performance on this night. Truly one of the best of his career. Captain Clutch lives up to his name. Just when his leadership is called into question more than once in this series, he steps up, and for the first time in his 8th-season career, and just his third postseason appearance, he's on the cusp of winning a playoff series for the very first time. A true legacy performance from Captain Joe. Forsberg was still making magic happen with his 2 assists, while the defense was solid, including 2 assists each from Krupp and Ozo. And while not a great night for Waugh, he too was on the verge of shaking away some demons. Game 6 at GM Place. The Vancouver faithful believe their team is far from finished. Waugh needs to be on his toes and ready. Sakic and Forsberg need to keep up their momentum. Also, the Avs have benched Troy Murray as his game misconduct in the prior game that allowed Linden to get the Canucks back in it for some of these playoffs. Kind of sat pretty sour with Marc Crawford. So Dave Hannon dresses for the Avs in this one. First period, the Canucks defense is stepping up huge, while the Avs defense is looking solid in their own right. Both Juan Hirsch makes saves when they need to. It's scoreless after 1. While the Canucks power play over, Marcus Naslund gets his first goal of the series in the Avs trail. But 46 seconds later, Peter the Great to Val the Very Good. Back to Curtis Lasician. Yep, the man not known for goals gets a biggie, and we're tied at 1-1. The Canucks get another power play marker over, but 124 later, the Avs strike with their power play. Ozo, Joe, Claude Lemieux showing up big time in this series. And why he was acquired, he's definitely explaining that to people. Gets the goal, it's tied 2-2, and would stay that way after 2. The third period, however, is a roller coaster ride. Big chances from both sides. The Canucks know they are capable of not just winning this game, but the series. The Avs, however, are sick of losing in the playoffs and losing in general. The time is winding down. GM places rabid. We look to be headed towards another OT, but with 2:42 to play, Scott Young to Sandy Zozlich. And who's there in a goal? Joe Sakic. He scores, silencing the rabid Vancouver crowd. The Avs lead 3-2. They just have to hang on. The clock is counting down 1 minute to go. The Canucks are trying so hard for the equalizer, but the Avs are all over them. 30 seconds. You can cut the excitement with a knife. 10 seconds. It's finally happening. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The Colorado Avalanche win 3-2 and take the series in 6, 4-2. And Joe Sakic, for the second straight game, comes up with a huge clutch performance, his second straight game winner. He truly proved it to the world, shut everyone up on this night. The first playoff series win of his career, and for many others on this club as well. It was up to him to make this team win, and he finally has done it in the postseason. The club wins its first playoff series since the Nordiques beat the Whalers in 6 back in 1987. The Canucks didn't make it easy. It was a little more difficult than the Avalanche probably expected, but they finally got over a hill they failed to get past in both 93 and 95. A huge moment for this club. Well, what more can you say about Joe Sakic in this series? While he did start somewhat sluggish and faced more criticism than he really deserved, he got it done. His epic clutch performances in games 5 and 6 alone show what a true warrior he is out there. A total of a team-leading 7 goals in this series with 4 helpers, leading them with 11 points in all 6 games, nearly 2 points a game. He was just incredible and shows why he wears that C. In his second to no surprise was Peter Forsberg, 4 goals, 6 assists for 10 points, and showed a great combination of skill, focus, and commanding offensive rushes in what was also his first playoff series win. Also was a first for Valeri Kamensky, who all around was everywhere on the ice in any given zone. His 3 goals, 6 helpers for 9 points was tremendous, coming in third in scoring, but his control of the puck was often a difference maker. Though Lemieux's playoff experience shined through in this series as he played excellently, Scott Young was also out there hustling constantly. Adam Denmarsh once again proves he is that secret weapon that people just underestimate way too much. It was great in many situations. Mike Ricci, along with Mike Keane and Stefan Yell, were amazing on the grind. And while McGillney had a great series for the Canucks, they were able to help hold him to just a goal, and it's no small feat. Troy Murray, however, wasn't all that stellar, and it nearly cost the Avs dearly in Game 5, while Rennie Corbet stepped up when called upon to do so. Chris Simon only had 2 penalty minutes in this whole series. Wow. Either way, this Avs forward core was in full force. As I mentioned, Kamensky was quite the asset in this series, and he was a team best +5 as an all-around play. Helped the Avs dearly, and does not get the love it deserves, however, when talking about this Avalanche team. While Sakic and Forsberg deserved the glory they got in this series, Kamensky didn't get enough in my opinion. And of course, leading the defense and scoring was Sandy Zozlich, again further proving what a great risk can mean great reward. What a series he had. 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points, leading all defensemen, and a great anchor on the power play. But also, Uwe Krupp, his late season return into these playoffs was huge for this club. 6 assists. And with Ozo to control the power play as well, paying dividends for the Avalanche. Kucherov was also excellent, while Lasician, despite missing 3 games, was very good. And like teammate Sakic, finally gets a playoff series win under his belt. Craig Wolanin, who also missed a couple games, played pretty well. And Lefebvre and Foote show that they can thrive in playoff hockey, as Lefebvre showed in the past with the Leafs. The Avs defense here looked, well, just solid as a whole. And now we move to Patrick Waugh, who got his first playoff series win since the Stanley Cup in 1993. He played in all 6 games with a 4-2 record, a pretty good goals against average of 2.84 and a so-so .891 save percentage, but he did get a shutout. Despite winning another playoff series in his career, people still aren't fully convinced he's quite himself, quote-unquote, in these playoffs. He still has his doubters. He did play excellently, however, in Game 3. Played good in other games and not so good in some others. Fiset did play 40 seconds, but didn't face a single shot, hence why I didn't include him in this graphic. The Avs, however, have climbed one hill, but some are still not convinced, considering the trouble the Canucks gave them. And winning one playoff round, well, really don't mean all that much when it comes down to it. And for the Western Conference semifinals, it isn't going to get any easier, as facing the Avs in this round is the Chicago Blackhawks, a team full of depth and playoff experience despite not having won a cup since 1961. In the decade of the 1990s, they had made the conference finals 3 times, including appearing in the Stanley Cup in 1992. They had a tremendous year, finishing with 40 wins, 28 losses, and 14 ties for 94 points. Rookie head coach Craig Hartsburg, who spent 4 years as an assistant in Philly, coming off 1 year in junior, was a former all-star defenseman in his day, and that was something the Blackhawks were definitely very good at, as defense. But they weren't so bad up front either. A longtime GM Bob Pulver had put together a rock-solid club. Remember, the Avs went 3-1-0 against them in the regular season, so that gives them a slight edge. Hawks, however, were able to sweep the Flames to get here. And they were a team that also had a lot of playoff experience, led by the pest known as JR, Jeremy Roenick, who has been their top forward in the decade of the 1990s, a big centerman who could get under the skin of the opposition, a strong puck protector who could drive to the net, led the Hawks in goals with 32 and notched 67 points in 66 games, missing 16 due to injury. He's a tremendous leader who could get results. He's also a big part of the Hawks' tremendous penalty kill, which needed to counter the Avs' huge power play, whereas Roenick did have 4 shorthanded goals in the season. Joining him was Tony Amonte, a speedy and agile winger who notched his third 30-goal campaign, scoring 31 and adding 32 assists for 63 points, playing in all 82 games. He, like Roenick, was a tremendous penalty killer and also had 4 shorthanded goals. They had a young rookie sensation in Eric Daze, a right winger with size and natural skill, a tremendous clutch scorer with a great wrist shot, notched 30 goals and total 53 points, and was runner-up for the Calder Trophy that year and made the All-Rookie team. This is a very talented scoring corps, but the veterans were going to be key, especially Blackhawks icon Denis Savard, who may have lost a bit of his scoring touch, but can still thrive in the playoffs. Juan Keane know him very well, as he had a cup ring with the 93 Habs, but now he would like to get a championship where he has now spent 12 of his 16 seasons, and that is Chicago. He has 157 playoff games under his belt, and 172 points to boot in the postseason. Bernie Nichols, a former 70-goal scorer and all-star for nearly a decade in Los Angeles, has over 1,000 career points and is looking for his first Stanley Cup ring. He's played 106 playoff games with 114 points and has been playing well so far in this postseason. Then there's Brent Sutter of the Sutter family dynasty. He brings massive playoff experience with 2 Stanley Cup rings with the Islanders, 4 overall Cup Finals appearances. He has been a top defensive gritty forward with 136 playoff games and can make life very difficult for the likes of Mr. Sakic. Also, you have Murray Craven, who has over 100 playoff games played, Joe Murphy, a 20-goal scorer who was key in Edmonton's Stanley Cup win in 1990, and also legendary top man Bob Probert, hardworking Jeff Shantz. And then, of course, there is this defense. Yeah, the Hawks were certainly stacked in that area, led by one of the all-time greats, Chris Chelios, a traditional shutdown defender who can get in the way of anything and anyone, and he can hurt you. He was also a tremendous puck mover, controller, and had some finesse to him as well. His 72 points led the team in scoring, which included 58 assists. He was excellent plus 25, and that would win him his 3rd Norris Trophy as the league's top defenseman. He was also a first-team All-Star for the 4th time in his career, 10th in Hart Trophy voting, and yes, he has 3 Cup Finals appearances, a championship with the Habs in '86, where he and Waugh were teammates. Yeah, he also has 152 games of postseason action. And joining him as well, All-Star Gary Suter, who himself has played in 2 Cup Finals, winning one with Calgary in '89. He also got some votes from the Nordiques that year. Keith Carney was tied for 7th in the league with a plus 31. He had also the reliable Eric Weinrich. And a huge return, Steve Smith, who brings 125 games of playoff experience, plus 3 Stanley Cup rings, all with the Edmonton Oilers, with 4 overall finals appearances. Again, Smith had missed a great deal of the season. The man in goal? Eddie the Eagle, Ed Belfour, 2 Vezina trophies in his career, part of those 92 Hawks that went all the way to the finals. This will be a highly anticipated first ever postseason showdown between he and Patrick Waugh. He was 22-17-10 and dealt with some injury issues. He did have a 2.74 goals against average and a good .902 save percentage and a shutout. It wasn't his greatest year, as even backup Jeff Hackett had some better numbers. But he looked good in the opening round against Calgary, giving up just 7 goals in 4 games. Can the Avs overcome this playoff heavyweight Blackhawks club? We shall see. Well, here we go. Game 1 in Denver. Early on, the Hawks stun the Avs as tough guy Enrico Ciccone gets a rare goal, and Belfour is not letting up on the Avs shooters as they pressure him. The Hawks create a 1-0 lead into the first intermission. But early in the second period, the Avs add pressure and are hustling as 3:10 in. It's Pete to Val to Claude Lemieux. The game is tied, and then 1:15 later, Ozo to Dead to Sakic. Yes, just like that, it's 2-1 Avalanche. Wasp making stops when needed, but the Avs defense is tightened up as Wolanin is back in action for this one. However, Belfour is not letting the Avs build on their lead. It's 2-1 after 2. But in the third period power play, the Hawks tied it just under 2 minutes into the frame. It remains 2-2 all the way to the end of regulation. We're headed to OT. Patrick Roy has a 24-6 record in playoff overtime games since his rookie season, so he'll be called upon to do his thing. He does not. After Chris Simon took a stupid high-sticking penalty, Roenick scored on the power play and the Avs lose this one. And the concern again abounds. There were some careless mistakes in this one, but the Hawks deserve to be commended for their group effort. Either way, the Avs fall to 2-2 at home in these playoffs. Game 2, Jeff Hackett gets the start for the Hawks, and Troy Murray is again out. Dave Hanna dresses for the Avalanche, while John Clem sees his first action this postseason for the injured Curtis Lasician. Again, it looks bad early as Amani scores for the Hawks just 4:28 in. This is the wake-up call the Avs needed, and their power play wakes up too after going 0-6 in Game 1. As Ricci surveys, Denmark sees, and Kaminsky scores! And the game is tied 1-1 just past the midway point of the first period. 1:10 later, however, the Avs strike again as Denmark controls the puck. Young takes a stab at it, but Wolanin parks it home. And yes, indeed, the Avs take a 2-1 lead. 53 seconds later, Lefebvre makes his presence known with the puck, presents it to Hannon, and who is it? It's Joe from Burnaby, 3-1 Avs. Then 2:41 later, the grind duo of Ricci and set up Ewing Crew for his first goal of these playoffs, 4-1 Avs after one period, and was playing marvelously in net. No goal for you, Mr. Roenick. Tough day, Daze. Bye-bye, Bernie. In the second period, the Hawks pressure Wall, but he is living up to his name as the Wall, and things get tense as both teams rack up penalties, but the Avs power play strikes again. Ricci gets, Young takes it, Denmark scores. It's 5-1 after 2 periods. And yes, indeed, Wall plays keep away, and the Avs, yes, and they emphatically take this one. What a response of the heartbreaking first game loss. And it was the role players that showed up for this one. Denmark, once again, the underrated secret weapon of the Avs, makes his presence known as he has in many games this season. A goal, 2 hoppers, and 3 points, a career night for the youngster. Mike Ricci proving he can add more dimension to his game. A huge night for him. 3 helpers. Scott Young was also showing how good he can be in the postseason with his 2 assists. And Waugh was great here. 30 saves, looking confident as ever. The series is tied at 1. But now the series shifts to Chicago for Game 3, and Belfour is back in net for the Hawks, and both teams' defensive strategies are giving their goalies a lot of breathing room, but the Hawks' power play solves Wall at the midway point of the period. Hawks go up 1-0 and keep that lead going into the second. In the second period, however, the Avs respond as Kaminsky goes in with Forsberg, scores his 5th of these playoffs, and to be relatively quiet so far in this series, and the game is tied. Just past the midway point of the second, Ozo layers it, Yell takes it, and Ricci scores it as he continues to roll and gives the Avs a 2-1 lead. Then with 1:23 left in the period and the Avs are on the power play, Ricci he sees, Lemieux he saw, Sakic he scores. His 10th of these playoffs already, 3-1. It's looking like the last game again. But Joe Murphy stuns the Avs with an individual effort, can lead to 3-2 after 2 periods. In the third, JR ties it for the Hawks, and the Avs can't get anything going, as indeed Mr. Sutter is getting to Mr. Sakic. And Belfour makes a big save when called upon to do so. And we're off to OT, and it just took 46 seconds for Wolanin to make a terrible move, allowing Daze to pick up the puck and sets up unlikely hero Sergei Krivokrasov's goal to sink the Avs in OT again. Waugh has never lost 2 OT games in a single playoff series at all in his career until now. It was so bad, in fact, an argument ensued after the game between Waugh and Wolanin, and Coach Marc Crawford became involved. He too had a blow up with a defenseman. This would indeed be the last game Craig Wolanin would suit up ever for the Colorado Avalanche. He'll be benched going forward. The Avs are internally faltering now and trail the series 2-1 with another game to play in Chicago. Here we go, Game 4. Hockey experts say while Sakic has played well, he needs to come up big for his club again. Forsberg only has 2 points in 4 games. He needs to step up as well. Well, Waugh is also facing a lot of pressure, and with Wolanin now history, at least the timing worked out as Curtis Lasician returns and John Clem will stay in the lineup. The Hawks, however, lose Tony Amani. The first period is scoreless as both teams' defenses are stellar. Waugh's making a big save here and there, as Belfour is facing quite a bit of pressure himself. But neither team can get it going. It remains scoreless after one, as the Avs are playing like a team under pressure, which, to be fair, they are. However, persistence pays off. Just 1:41 into the second period when Sakic takes a loose puck, goes in goal and parks it home past Belfour. The Avs are up on one. But it's only a shade under 3 minutes later, Suter ties it. But Belfour again stands his ground while Chicago defense again steps things up, and the Avs are holding in tough as well. It remains 1-1 after 2. The Avs power play, however, comes into play in the third period. Ozo starts. Sakic continues, and Kamensky finishes, showing his power play prowess yet again. It's 2-1 Avalanche. But the Hawks respond again, and the game is tied 2:26 later. Time winds down, both teams are held off the board. We're going to OT again, as the Hawks look to make it a trio of extra frame victories. Overtime commences, and the Avs defense is giving the Hawks a rough time. And when they don't, Waugh is there to make the save, while Belfour frustrates the Avs forwards continuously. We still have no winner as the clock counts down. We're off to double OT. It's much of the same. We got big chances on both sides, as Eddie is standing on his head while the Avs add pressure. 2 OTs down, we still have no winner. Now, off to triple OT. And it at last happens. Ricci, the puck to Gusarov, who sees Sakic on the side of the net, and he scores his second OT goal in these playoffs. His second goal of the game, third point of the game. They said he needed to step up, and he hit again. Does just that with another big clutch performance, and the series is tied at 2. Gusarov was the man who really held tough for the Avs in this game with a great performance on the blue line, as well as Adam Foote, who came through. And Ricci continues to have a big series as he helps shut down Roenick. What took place after the game was pretty interesting itself. Roenick complained there should have been a penalty shot called during an incident in this game, but Waugh pretty much said he'd stop him anyway. While Roenick shot back, saying that he's wondering where Waugh was at Game 3. Probably getting his jock out of the Raptors of the United Center. Okay. I mean, that's clever in a Roenick type way, I suppose. But after talking to teammate Mike Keane, Patrick Waugh had this infamous response.
I can't really hear what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings plugged in my ear.
And even funnier, as Roenick had no Stanley Cup rings, and spoiler, never would. This was the Patrick Waugh that Colorado needed. The confident, no given Patrick Waugh, who believed he could win any game at any given time. Well, now the series is tied, and the Avs have momentum going back home. Game 5, the Denver fans are in full force, ready for their team to take control of this thing. And the Avs defense and grinders are giving the Hawks quite a headache in this one. And it's their role players who strike first, as Dave Hannon, who has been solid for the Avs, gets the puck to John Clem, and Chris Simon gets his first goal of these playoffs, and the Avalanche lead 1-0 after 1. Waugh was making saves, and the Avs were not letting up on the Hawks, and the second period commenced. And just at the midway point, Croak finds Kamensky in the perfect position, and boom, 2-0 Avalanche. And that's how it would stay after 2 periods. Early in the third period, Sylvan and Uwe work together to set up Scotty Young, 3-0. The Hawks are again trying to get in this thing, and they do get one back, but 2 minutes later, Lefebvre, check, Foote, check, Kamensky, checkmate. Haha, his second goal of the game, a big night for Val. Sylvain Lefebvre was a warrior out there, as was Uwe Krupp, and both had 2 assists. Ozo and Lasician both played great games as well. Stefan Yell was not backing down for the Hawks star forwards. For the first time in this series, the Avs actually lead it, and do so by a margin of 3-2. They're in the driver's seat right now. A great all-around effort from the club as we ship Towns once again. Game 6 back in the Windy City. The Hawks fans, however, know this is far from over, and so do the Hawks themselves. Close to 5 minutes in, Lemieux back to Ozo to Kamensky. What a series he is having. The Avs draw first blood. But just past the halfway point, Denis Savard showed flashes of his old self and tied the game. The Hawks are hustling. The defense is trying to hold it together for the Avs, but Waugh's making some big stops, and so is Belfour. It ends 1-1 after 1. The second period, however, both teams, from their top 6 to their lower 6, to every defensive pairing to their goalies, are doing everything they can, but nobody can get on the board. The second period is winding down. Nichols gives the Hawks a 2-1 lead in the second intermission. But the Avs begin the third period on the power play. Krupp, yep, Young, oh yeah, and Sakic nets lucky number 13. It's tied 2-2. 5.5 minutes later, Lemieux makes magic happen again with Kamensky. Another 2-goal game, and the Avs have a 3-2 lead. Time is winding down with 1 minute to play. The Hawks, however, tie it with an extra attacker on the ice pulling Belfour, and the fourth time in the series we're going to overtime. The Hawks are desperately trying to force Game 7. The Avs are trying to finish it. Belfour and Wall are doing their thing as expected. And the time winds down and we still have no winner. Now we need double OT. And 5:18 in. Sakic and Kamensky work hard trying to get to Belfour, but a loose puck is open. Ozolinsh takes a stab at it, and he scores! The Avalanche win the series in 6 games. They're off to the Western Conference Finals. This is the first time the Avs team after their days as the Quebec Nordiques have made a conference final series since 1985. Ozo was not only the OT hero, but overall he played a beauty. As did Kamensky, who has been on another planet in this series. 2 goals and a helper for 3 points. Sakic again showing why he is the leader of this club. Lemieux's playoff self came to play, and Waugh made many a great save. A huge win, a huge moment, and now they're another step closer. They overcame one hump in the first round. They overcame an even bigger hump in this round, but now it's going to get even more difficult. But regardless, they took down a heavily experienced and deep Hawks team in 6 games. What a series for Valeri Kamensky. 6 goals, 3 assists for a team leading 9 points. He was in command out there, showing out that international style that messes well with NHL playoff hockey in this era especially. And good old Burnaby Joe with only a point behind with 8, tying Kamensky for the team leading goals. Started steady yet slow according to some, but again came alive with big clutch performances, especially in Game 4, which shifted the series in the Avalanche favor. And with his second OT winner of these playoffs, he's finally been able to show how good a playoff hockey he can really be. And while Mike Ricci had some rough outings, he was a beast overall for this club. Came in third with a goal, 5 helpers for 6 points. Wow. A lot of players had to step up, as Forsberg hit a scoring slump with only 2 points in this series. Phil Lemieux was a momentum shifter yet again. Scott Young was hustling out there. Denmarsh was also playing with great heart. Stefan Leal was called upon in many situations to work the grind, like he has done all year. Dave Hannon proved to be an asset. Mike Keane has been a couple sluggish outings, played well. And while Chris Simon added the toughness, once again, the forward core, despite some holes, were able to fill them in. On the defensive side of things, Sandy Ozolinsh proves to what little doubters were left that obtaining him was the right move, as he, of course, led a defenseman in scoring with 1 goal, 4 assists, with 5 points. It was a huge +6. Of course, the series OT winner, of course, Elk Rayleigh. He was excellent. And so was Sylvain Lefebvre, who was also acquired with a great deal of playoff experience during his time in Toronto and playing outstanding hockey here. UA Krupp, again, continued to produce well in the series. Craig Willemin was playing pretty well until his gaff in Game 3 and blow up with star goaltender and his coach, while that pretty much sealed his fate. But John Clem stepped up tremendously. Healthy Curtis Lecicia played well in his 4 games. Kucherov missed 1 game, but still contributed, while Adam Foote had some struggles, but overall played well. Again, this defense still evolves. St. Patrick and how he got his group back. Yeah, looks great, and he played much better here than the Vancouver series, despite suffering 2 OT series losses for the first time in his career. Well, he also won 2. He had a huge .919 save percentage, a most excellent 1.92 goals against average, but of course he'll always be remembered for that soundbite after Game 4. But this crazy year he has been through seems to be finally settling into a more comfortable role as the clutch goaltender he is known to be. But he's going to have to face a demon from his very recent past, and there are still those who aren't sure he's ready for this. As the Avs head to the Western Conference Final, they best be prepared. And indeed, awaiting them, the best team in the league, the history-making 1995-96 Detroit Red Wings. A new NHL record, 62 wins, with that only 13 losses and 7 ties, for 131 points. The wins record was previously held by the 1976-77 Montreal Canadiens, who won 60 games, and the Wings' 131 points was just 1 short of that same Habs team, and they're 132. That Montreal team, who, of course, won their second of 4 straight Stanley Cups, was coached by Scotty Bowman, the man who is now behind the bench for the Red Wings. And the Avs did beat the Red Wings in the very first game of the season, in the first game in Denver as the Avalanche, but lost the other 3. And of course, the game that ultimately led to Waugh's departure in Montreal, where the Wings lit him up and humiliated him, notching 9 goals that infamous 11-1 thrashing. His struggles against this club continued with the Avs, as well as in more than 4 goals a game against the Red Wings this season. Ugh, terrible average. Waugh's no stranger to pressure, but this is different than anything he's faced in quite some time. As the decade of the 90s have gone on, the Wings just get better and better. Hit a whole new level in 93-94 when Scotty Bowman took over as coach, but they collapsed in the opening round of the playoffs. The prior year to this, they had the best record in the league in the strike-shortened season, and made it their first Stanley Cup appearance since 1966, but were embarrassed and upset by the New Jersey Devils. But the masses believe this is the year. But their journey here has not been easy. It took them 6 games to beat a never-say-die Winnipeg Jets club in what would be the last hockey game in Winnipeg for 15-some years. And it took double OT in Game 7 to beat Gretzky, Hall, McGinnis, Progber, and the upstart Blues. So there are some skeptics. And when you think of this Red Wings team, you think, the Russian Five. A core that emphasized controlling the puck on the entire ice surface, and their strategy was pivotal in changing the North American game. The core was led by Sergei Fedorov, one of the best all-round players in the game at this point, and proved by winning the Selke Trophy as the league's top defensive forward for the second time in 3 seasons. He led the Wings in all scoring categories, 39 goals, 68 assists for 107 points, which is tied for 9th best in the league. His plus 49 was 2nd best in the league. He fell just short of being a finalist for the Hart Trophy, which he won 2 seasons prior, coming in 5th in voting. On the left side of him, you had Slava Kozlov, the young gun of the bunch, having just turned 24. Just in his 4th full season with the club, had a career year, with a career-high 36 goals, adding 37 assists, and tying his career high of 73 points. This plus 33 was 5th best in the league. However, he does not get the credit I feel he deserves when it comes to making this core work. And the man who completed this core up front, with a trade very early in the season, an icon in his native land, Igor Larionov, a pro since 1978, and now in the NHL for 7 seasons, and still just 35 years old, has many accolades in his trophy case, with 8 Soviet League titles, 2 Olympic golds, 4 World Championship golds, a silver and a bronze, playing in 3 Canada Cups, winning 1 in 1981, and is regarded as one of the all-time great international players. He came to the Red Wings and scored 21 goals and 50 assists for 71 points, all career highs in the NHL, and always performed well in the postseason, it seemed. See how perfect this Red Wings club and this core. He's a plus 31, was tied for 7th best in the league. Now to the Blue Liners, who complete this amazing group of players. First you have Vlad the Impaler, the hard-hitting, ambitious Vladimir Konstantinov. A career year for Vladdy. He led the league with a plus 60, was a 2nd-team All-Star, but barely missed out on being a finalist for the Norris Trophy, finishing 4th in voting, and he too knows how to win with 3 World Championship golds and a bronze. Topping it off, another Soviet icon, defenseman Slava Fetisov, 38 and still great. His plus 37 for 3rd best in the league, a pro since 1976, and in the NHL for 7 seasons, a longtime teammate back in his homeland with Larionov. He knows how to win as well. Again, more than a dozen Soviet League titles, 2 Olympic golds, a silver, 7 World Championship golds, a silver, and 3 bronzes, playing in 3 Canada Cups and winning in 1981 with Igor. Despite all their success, none of these men had their name engraved on Lord Stanley at this time. But of course the Red Wings had even more than this going for them. The man who'd been the heart and soul of this team for so many years, indeed for 13 seasons, their captain, Stevie Yzerman, who's been their captain now for 10 seasons. 39 goals, 56 assists, 95 points. Oh my. Even now at age 31 has already carved out a Hall of Fame career, but after getting close to Lord Stanley last year, he's hungry for it again this year. Indeed, scored that infamous double OT winner to beat the Blues in Game 7. He's also a plus 29 this season, plays a great 2-way game, was a finalist for the Selke Trophy, coming in 3rd in voting as the 2nd runner-up. For the 13th time in 16 seasons, power forward Dynamo Dino Ciccarelli scored at least 20 goals and notched 43 points in 64 games. At age 36, he's still reliable. He has now played 4 seasons in Detroit and is looking for his first Stanley Cup. Their forward core also had 27-goal scorer Keith Primo, so as reliable hard workers such as Greg Johnson, veteran depth with Bob Airy, who brings 2 Stanley Cup rings with him, grinders such as Chris Draper, who is a huge steal for the Wings, and Darren McCarty. Wingers Doug Brown and Martin Lapointe help out as well. Speaking of Stanley Cup experience on the defense, they have a lot of it with Paul Coffey. He has played in 6 Stanley Cup finals and has 4 rings to show for it. And in his 4th season with the Wings, his 16th in the NHL, he had 74 points in 76 games, still looking sharp, and 5th in Norris Trophy voting. But also in this blue line core, young Swedish sensation Nicklas Lidstrom in his 5th NHL season, just really getting into his best years at this point. Has 70 goals and 50 assists for 67 points in 81 games, was a tremendous plus 29, 6th in Norris Trophy voting, and played in his first NHL All-Star game this year. Also in the core, season vet Mike Ramsey, reliable Mark Bergevin, and Anders Eriksson. In goal, the Wings are going with youngster Chris Osgood, who is in his 3rd season, and his best one at that. An amazing 39-6-5 record. He led the league in wins. His 2.17 goals against average was tied for best in the league. His .911 save percentage was tied for 7th, and had a big 5 shutouts that was tied for 3rd. He and veteran Mike Vernon allowed the least amount of goals in the league, winning the Jennings Trophy, and was the runner-up for the Vezina Trophy. So now, here we go. Game 1. Joe Louis Arena, the Wings seem to have the Avs swarmed, and they strike first with a Paul Coffey goal. The Wings lead 1-0 after the first period. As the Wings' defensive system keeps the Avs at bay and Osgood makes some big saves. Detroit began the period on a power play, and while killing the penalty, the Avs' Stefan Yell was trying to clear the puck, and it ended up on a stick of Detroit's Paul Coffey, who put it in his own net. Oh boy. Some say this is what sealed Coffey's fate in Detroit. Yell gets credit, and the game is tied. Both teams are fighting for control of the puck as Foot and Gusarov are playing great on the blue line for the Avalanche, and Waz making the key stops. It's 1-1 after 2 periods. Just 1:34 into the 3rd, Sakic to Young to Deadmarsh. The Avalanche lead 2-1, but Paul Coffey makes up for his gaffe and ties the game not long after at 2-2. The defense checkers and goalies are doing their job, and time runs down. We have no winner at the end of regulation. Overtime commences, and both teams press, but time is winding down with 2:29 remaining in the extra frame. Gusarov gets the puck ahead. It reaches Ricci. It gets to Keane, who launches it with a swift shot, and the Avs take Game 1, a huge win. A great collaborative effort to upset this Red Wings club. Gusarov and Foot were tremendous in this game, leading the way for the Colorado blue line. Mike Keane, a clutch hero in this one, but will the Avs be able to sustain this momentum and keep up this strategy? Game 2 still to Joe. The Wings are without Stevie Y, and Waugh is fierce in net. The Wings can't get to him. After a cross-checking penalty on Cicerelli, it's an Avs power play. Scotty Young, Mikey Ricci, and Joey Sakic. The Avs strike first, and Waugh holds strong. It's 1-0 after 1. In the second period, Gusarov gets up to Yell, and in on goal, Warren Reichel gets his first goal of these playoffs, 2-0 Avalanche. And then 2:18 later, Young leads, Ricci proceeds, and Ozo scoresies! Yes, 3-0 Avalanche. And Waugh is showing just why the Avs went through all that trouble to obtain him. It remains 3-0. The 3rd period, the Wings are pressing for a comeback. Oh, Waugh ain't having it. I don't think so, Igor. F off, Fedorov. Ta-ta, Kozlov, and Coffey gets decaffed, and the Avalanche take a 2-game lead on the road. A shocking turn of events. What a big game for the Avalanche again. Waugh is sensational. 35 saves for the shutout, his 2nd of these playoffs. Great games from Ricci and Young, notching 2 apples each, and Foot and Gusarov still playing great on the blue line. This is amazing for Colorado, staying focused and dissecting the Red Wings game as they have exposed Osgood's lack of playoff savvy. Game 3, the Denver crowd is rabid and ready for the Avs to get into cruise control. The Wings, however, looked dead focused early on. Yzerman is back, but now Coffey is out. Near the midway point of the Wings score just 2 goals, 109 apart. 5 minutes later, however, the Avs on the power play tick, Sakic, tack, Deadmarsh, and Lemieux. The Avalanche cut the gap to 2-1, and that's how it stays after 1 period. The Wings took a 3-1 lead over 5:36 into the 2nd, but 20 seconds later, Forsberg gets it over to Ozolinsh, his 5th goal this postseason. Both teams' defensive systems, however, giving their goalies some breathing space, but things get crazy after a shorthanded and power play goal, 2:07 apart, as the Red Wings silence McNichols Arena and lead 5-2. But with 60 seconds later, Ricci gets it to Joe, and back to Foot, who scores a rare goal. Then 7 seconds later, Forsberg comes in on goal with Deadmarsh, who scores! The Denver crowd wakes up the Astros 5-4 after 40 minutes. But the Buzzes kill 32 seconds in the 3rd. Lidstrom gets his 2nd of the game, and the Avalanche fail to capitalize their home ice advantage at this point. Drop a 6-4 loss as the Wings cut into the series, and the Avs series lead is now 2-1. Despite another good game from Sakic as well as Deadmarsh and Forsberg coming to life, it wasn't enough. Ozolinsh didn't play all that well, and as for Waugh, complete opposite of game 2. He was bad, allowing 6 goals on 22 shots, as his Red Wing nightmares have now come back to haunt him. Fedorov and Lidstrom hurt the Avs in a big way. Game 4, we're still in Denver, and the Avs are still able to take full control of this series if they can. But the Red Wing strategy isn't allowing the Avalanche to get any chances on Osgood. But Waz again refocused, shaking off the frustrations of the last game. His time is winding down, with 3:37 left in the frame. Lasician gets the puck moving, and on the stick, a Burnaby Joe it goes. He sees Denmarsh and puts it in the net. His 5th goal of these playoffs, and the Avalanche take a 1-0 lead after 1. In the second period, Gusarov took a penalty, and the Wings scored to tie it. Just over 3 minutes later, however, Ricci comes in on the goal, and Sakic's right there to park it home. 2-1 Avalanche. Waz again back to form, and is frustrating the Wings early in the third period. Another power play. Denmarsh gets it to Gusarov over to Krupp. He slaps it home. The Avalanche lead 3-1. Waz holding everything and everyone off, and the Denver crowd is cheering every save. But the Wings get back within 1, just under 6 minutes to play. But the goalie refocuses, and so does the defense. With just 2 seconds left, Krupp clears it, and Forsberg launches it into the empty net. The Avalanche regain their 2-game series lead at 3-1 with a 4-2 win. Denmarsh is a force out there with a goal and a helper. Krupp plays his best game of the series as Gusarov continues to shine, pretty much exposing his former countryman. Well, I guess still current countryman. You know what I mean. Either way, he was a big deal in this series and helping expose the Russian 5. And then there's Joe Sakic playing like a man possessed, yet focused. And Waugh proving his resilience with 29 saves on 31 shots. And the Avs continue to expose counterpart Osgood. Despite how good this Avalanche team is, few expect them to have a 3-1 lead on the Wings at this point in the series. But we're heading back to Motown. Game 5 at the Joe, the Wings are determined to stay in this thing, and Coffey is back in the lineup. The Wings go up 2-0 in the first period, scoring 2 goals around the midway point, just over a minute apart. And while the Avs are applying even more pressure to Osgood, the goalie is on point tonight. It remains 2-0 after 1. Second period, the Avs power play however strikes Denmarsh to Sakic to Ricci, and the lead is cut in half, but the Wings regain their 2-goal lead not long after. And on another power play, it's Scotty to Ozo to Ricci, his 2nd goal of the game, and the Avs again trail by 1. But Osgood stands firm. The Wings get 2 more and lead 5-2 after 2. They'd hold the Avs off completely in the third and play their strategy as the Russian 5 completely controlled the puck. And again, the Wings are still in this thing, cutting the Avs lead in the series. Again, the 3-2 winning 5-2. The return of Coffey and Osgood's performance kept the Avalanche from clinching the berth in the final, but they still lead the series and are still a win away from making the big dance. It was a rough night for our boys, but despite a big game from Ricci, Colorado couldn't keep up on this night. Here we go, Game 6 back in Denver, and the fans are ready to see their new team make history, and it indeed was a fast, intense game from the puck drop, both teams hustling hard to gain an edge. And Rennie Corbet, seeing some playoff action, starts a play that ends up with a stick of Denmarsh, and he indeed sets up Sakic. The Avs lead 1-0, and later in the period, a rather infamous moment took place that kicked this new rivalry into high gear for years to come. Claude Lemieux came in on Red Wings grinder Chris Draper with a vicious check from behind, driving his face into the boards. Draper suffered a broken jaw, broken cheekbone, broken nose, and to top it off, a concussion. The Wings did score shortly after, and the game was tied 1-1 after the first. In the second period, Lapointe was called for goaltender interference, and the Avs go on a power play as Krupp gives it to Kamensky. Hey, Joe, where are you going with that puck of yours? I'm going to shoot it in the net, and get another goal. Yes, Sakic gets his 2nd of the game. Detroit was playing a very frustrating game, and the Avs had a 2-1 lead. Another power play, Ozo leads, Sakic proceeds, and Ricci scores his 5th goal of these playoffs. The Avalanche lead 3-1. Waz playing rock solid in net, and the defense is on point. And then late in the period, Peter Forsberg, who is again taking some criticism lately, takes a loose puck and goes in and scores. 4-1 Avalanche after 2 periods. In the third period, the Wings are fighting for a comeback, but the Avs are giving them no room to produce anything. 5 minutes pass, the Avs still lead and are doing everything they can to protect it. The third period is halfway done. The Avalanche still lead by 3 goals. The Wings have fighting them, but it isn't resulting in anything. 5 minutes to play. The clock keeps ticking. The McNichols Arena is going crazy. 1 minute to go. Is this actually happening? 30 seconds. The crowd is getting louder. The Avs are playing keep away at this point. 10 seconds. The building is shaking to its core. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The Colorado Avalanche are going to the Stanley Cup Western Conference champions. They have stunned the Red Wings. They have stunned the hockey world by downing one of the most stacked teams of all time, the record-setting Red Wings of 1995-96. The dream that still seemed a bit far away has finally come true, but the reality still needs to be accomplished. But be that as it may, this is still a monster with Joe Sakic. Again, the clutch strikes. Big game situation, 2 goals and a helper for 3 points. Foot, Lasician, Gusarov, Rubin, Ozelinch, all fantastic. Checkers like Keenan, Ricci giving Fedorov and Eisen that difficult night. They needed this roster from top 6 to the bottom 6, from the first pairing to the final pairing, and of course their star goalie to defeat this great club. And they did just that. Joe Sakic does it again. He is unstoppable. Something he has never been in the playoffs until now. 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points, all 6 games, and finishing his huge performance in this series clinching 6th game. Coming in second in scoring was again Mike Ricci, who has been a key asset in these playoffs more than anyone thought he would be. With 3 goals, 5 assists, and 8 points in all 6 games as well. He really played huge, giving Eiserman a rough go of things and helping contain him. Coming in third in scoring is Colorado's now not so secret weapon anymore, but a weapon nonetheless. That's Adam Denmarsh. 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points, just all over this ice surface. He and Ricci's performances were all the more impressive due to some of the other top guns, again, having a rough go of things, such as Peter Forsberg, who played better in this series than he did against Chicago, but still isn't fully back to form. While Valery Kamensky seemed to not get much going against his fellow countrymen, he himself had a pretty rough series. However, Scott Young still proved to have value to his team in a tremendous series. Claude Lemieux played well more in a defensive role here. Didn't contribute much on the score sheet, but definitely made a lasting impression, to say the least, on the wings. Stefan Yell was in the face of many top Detroit forwards, as was Mike Keane throughout this series. Of course, his clutch goal in the opening game is historic. Warren Reichel and Rennie Corbet played well in the games they suited up for. Chris Simon only played 2 games in the series, and sadly his playoffs are done. Troy Murray, who will no longer be in action, also saw a little bit of ice time, while Dave Hanna provided the veteran depth when necessary. Either way, this core worked together to get the job done once again. And the defense. Look at this. Adam Foote and Alexei Gusarov really brought their best to the series, both playing excellent game in and game out as the best. The team leading +6 each. And again, Gusarov really knowing the strategy of his fellow countrymen on the Russian 5, helped expose them and put some holes in their strategy to help the Avalanche along the way. He does not get near enough credit as he deserves for how he played in this series. And Adam Foote, what a postseason he's having. They have the Wings figured out, it seemed often, and played the best hockey of their respective careers at this point. Ozelinch, of course, led the defensive scoring and played well with 2 each in notches and apples for 4 points. Ewing Group had a couple rough outings, but overall played very well. While Lasician, Lefebvre, and Clem were all excellent, playing tremendous hockey. Again, the continued progression of this Avalanche defense, again, does not get enough credit when talking about this team. And now, St. Patrick has exorcised the demon lingering over him, known as the Red Wings. He played oh so well in this series, especially in Game 2. His numbers weren't as strong as the Hawks series, but either way, an excellent 9-on-5 save percentage, a solid 2.57 goals against average, and a shutout. For Waugh and everything he has gone through this year, the roller coaster ride began with his last game in Montreal, being embarrassed by this very same team, and still having trouble with them all season long, and even a bit in this series still. But he outdueled the shaky Chris Osgood and schooled him, and now he's about to have his 4th crack at the cup. So, it all comes down to this. Despite how good this Avalanche team is, not many, except for maybe themselves and their fans, thought they were going to be here. Joe Sakic had never won a single playoff series until this year, and now he's about to perform at the big dance. Curtis Lasician has been along for the ride with his captain during the lowest valleys and now at the highest peaks. Even Adam Foote saw a lot of that as well. For youngsters like the Swedish marvel known as Peter Forsberg, For seasoned vets like Sylvian stars Alexei Kucherov and Valery Kamensky, they know how to win for their country. But now they get the chance to do so in the NHL. Another European star UA group has the chance to be the first German-trained player to be a champion. Mike Ricci, along with Forsberg, is one of the last remnants of the Lindros trade, this club that changed everything. Ready to further prove he was worth the acquisition. Claude Lemieux, most playoff savvy forward on this team, proven he was worth the risk. But his actions against Draper has him missing the first 2 games. That could be very well costly. Youngsters like Denmark, Schial, and Lefebvre, growing up seeing it on TV, have a chance to be on the screen realizing their dreams. The team sacrificed a big star to get Sandy Sosa-Lynch, ready to prove once and for all it was the right move. Warren Reichel gets his big shot, as sadly Chris Simon will miss this series. Scott Young has tasted the sweet nectar of victory from that cup. Dave Hannon has his name on the cup, but actually gets a chance to play in the final now. And Patrick Waugh, who once said, "I've won a Stanley Cup, and I've lost a Stanley Cup. It's a huge difference." Well, he has won 2, came up short in the other, but he continues his journey of redemption this year. General Manager Pierre Lacroix and young head coach Marc Crawford have also defied the odds and worked together to make this journey. They still have to reach the destination. And awaiting them is a team that nobody expected to be there. The Eastern Conference champion Florida Panthers. In just their 3rd year of existence, making the playoffs for the first time. With a 41-30-10 record for 92 points, finishing 4th place in the Eastern Conference. To get to this point, they were able to take out Ray Bourque and the Bruins in 5 games. They shocked Eric Lindros and the top-seeded Flyers, so many felt this was possibly their year, and the Panthers bounced them in 6. Then, to win the conference, they pulled off another huge upset, beating Super Mario, Mighty Jaromir, and the 2nd-seeded Pittsburgh Penguins in a thrilling 7-game series. They were headed up by general manager Brian Murray, who is regarded as one of the smartest minds in hockey, and coached by rookie Doug McLean, who has worked with Murray in Washington and Detroit as an assistant. The team was initially put together by former general manager Bob Clarke and guided by one of the most storied coaches of all time, Roger Nielsen. Brilliant minds indeed. The two played against each other twice this year, one game ending in a tie and the absence of the other in overtime. This wasn't a team full of all-stars. It was full of character players, both seasoned vets and up-and-comers, and they just found ways to win. They were led by the rat killer himself, Scott Mellanby, who led the team in scoring for the 2nd time in their 3 seasons of existence. Scored a career high in goals with 32 and had assists with 38 and points with 70. What was his 10th NHL season? The tradition of the rubber rats in Florida began due to this man. After slap-shotting a rat in a locker room, he used that stick to score 2 goals in a game earlier this season. The Panthers were off and running. The team also had a tremendous record whenever Mellanby scored a goal. A forward with grit and size, he has done great things to lead this team, and was tied for 5th in the league in power play goals. He even got a vote for the Hart Trophy. He also has made deep playoff runs twice with the Flyers and once with the Oilers. This is his 2nd finals appearance, but first since 1987. Joining him on this score, Rob Niedermeyer, 2nd in team scoring with 26 goals, 35 assists, and 61 points in his 3rd season. And like Mellanby, a forward with size, grit, clutch scoring ability, was able to get in the way of top forwards such as Oates, Lindros, and Lemieux in these playoffs. Shows tremendous leadership abilities and is a fan favorite among Panthers fans. Their most reliable grinder on this club was Tom Fitzgerald. Again, always a reliable lower 6 player, proved what an asset he can be to the club. He's one of the Panthers' top checkers and their best penalty killer. Was tied for 2nd in the league with 6 shorthanded goals. He came in 9th in Selke Trophy voting, plus a grade at containing top forwards. So is their team captain, Brian Sprudlin, who won his first Stanley Cup as a rookie with the Habs in '86 with Juan Lemieux. Mike Keane sometimes was lined up with him early in his career. Sprudlin has 124 games of playoff experience, and this is his 3rd finals appearance. Also, clutch goal scorer Johan Garpenloff was one of the league leaders in game-winning goals. The Panthers made a big acquisition late in the season, acquiring former Red Wings star Ray Shepherd from the Sharks. He has 6 consecutive 20-plus goal seasons and 8 in his career. Also in the core, he had Stu Barnes, hard worker, 20-goal scorer Jody Hull, former Nordique Mike Huff, and role player Bill Lindsay. On the defense, they had their breakout star rookie, a first overall pick from 1994, Ed Jovanovski. A towering 6'3" and over 200 pounds, He makes any forward skating his way pay a price for that good hit, and has shot life into this Florida Panthers defense. So much so, he was a runner-up for the Calder Trophy as the league's top rookie, and was named to the All-Rookie team and got a vote for the Norris Trophy as well. And joining him was another rookie, Slovakian star Robert Svela, who had a really good year. He had veteran Gordon Murphy, who also lent a huge hand. Running out the court, Jason Woolley, Rhett Warner, tough guy Paul Laus, and veteran Terry Karkner. And the biggest star on the club is the man who backstopped them all this way. And that is all-star goaltender, the Beezer, John Van Beesbrook. Making spectacular saves left, right, high, center, low, wherever you want. A record of 26, 20, and 7, a solid 2.68 goals against average, was among the 10 best in the league. He had a really good save percentage of .904, garnering 2 shutouts, and came in 7th for Vezina Trophy voting. The last time Beezer and Waugh faced each other in the playoffs was all the way back in 1986 in the Wales Conference Final when John played for the Rangers, and Waugh, of course, was on that miracle rookie lead Habs club that ended up winning the Stanley Cup that year. And while that year, Beezer actually won the Vezina Trophy as the league's top goalie. Waugh, however, has not had a great record against the Panthers. 1-5-2 since they entered the league. The win actually coming this season when Waugh was still with the Habs. Also, the Panthers didn't need big stars to take out Bork, Lindros, and Lemieux, and here they are. So here we go. Game 1. The Rocky Mountains are rocking for their first Stanley Cup game to be played in Denver. In their first period, both teams are playing a tight game, but both getting chances, and it's the Panthers that strike first with a Tom Fitzgerald goal, and the Avs show 1-0 after 1. In the second period, Beezer is stopping the Avs on slot, but midway through the frame, Lefebvre starts, Denmark continues, and Young scores. The game is tied 1-1, and just under 2 minutes later, Mike Keane gains possession of the puck, and then Ozo gets it, and in the right place, the right time, Mike Ricci scores. It's 2-1 Avalanche. Exactly 2 minutes later, it's Pete the Swede, it's Valdaruski, it's Ili from Deutschland, who scores the goal. A great trio of European talent make it 3-1 Avalanche. Waugh from there is standing firm. Nothing's getting by him. It remains 3-1 after 2. The Avs defensive core is doing their thing, and so is Waugh. Crawford switches up the strategy simply to protect the lead. And it works! The Avs take Game 1 3-1. A huge game for pretty much everyone involved. From the top 6 to the bottom 6, everyone pulled their weight. As the blue line core, and Waugh was a star in net again. This is a great way to start the series for our heroes as they work together to infiltrate the Panthers' strategy. Game 2, the Denver fans are anxious for what's next. And just over 4 minutes in, Peter Forsberg makes a spectacular solo effort and opens the scoring at 1-0. However, the Panthers tie it on the power play. But then the Avs go on the power play. Sakic sees what's happening. Young visualizes, and Ready Quarterback guides it into the net. The Avs retake the lead 2-1. Then another power play. It's Ozo to Joel to Peter. Forsberg nets his second of the game, 3-1 Avalanche. A frustrated Panthers club take another rough penalty, and the Avs have the extra man advantage again. Dead Marsh, Sakic, and Peter Forsberg hat trick. The first playoff hat trick of his career. And topped off the Avalanche lead 4-1. To the shock and dismay of many, Beezer's night is done. But the Avs aren't going to take it easy on Mark Fitzpatrick in the second period. Corbett, channeling many of his teammates, makes a great individual play and scores his second goal of the game, 5-1. Just 31 seconds later, Deadman Guzman set up Kamenski, his 10th goal of these playoffs. What a postseason he is having. 6-1 Avalanche. And at the midway mark of the period, Corbett to Clem, 7-1. That's how it remains after 2. And like the last game in the third, the Avs just protect their lead. As time winds down, the final wound is on the power play. Sakic sets up Clem for his second goal of the game. Sakic's 4th assist of the game. 8-1 Avalanche. And that would be the final. A pure dominant showcase on this bunch. An epic night for Pierre Forsberg, who's been relatively quiet during many games this postseason, especially in the last couple rounds, but really came alive in this one. He was on fire with a hat trick. Sakic, again, proving he really is one of the best. Continues his remarkable run. 4 assists, what an amazing night. Unlikely hero, Randy Corbet. 2 goals and a helper for 3 points. Clem, 2 goals. A big game for Denmarsh. Adam Foote was a presence on the blue line. Gusarov played amazing. Krupp again continues to roll. And Waugh was fantastic in net. And the bottom line, the Avalanche lead the series 2-0 as they hit the road. Game 3, the first Stanley Cup game to be played in Miami. The Panthers still have faith as their fans. The Avs, however, get a boost as Claude Lemieux returns to the lineup after his 2-game suspension. And just 2:44 in, Forsberg continues momentum from the last game, gets it to Kamensky, and yes, Claude Lemieux scores his 5th of these playoffs. The Avalanche draw first blood. However, Ray Shepherd ties it for the Panthers on a power play, and 2:05 later, Rob Niedermayer gives them a 2-1 lead as Patrick Roy is showered with a rubber rats, but the Panthers are playing a very disciplined game, not making the mistakes they made in the prior 2. They have refocused and re-energized and lead 2-1 after 1. However, the Avalanche silenced the Miami Arena just 1:38 into the second. Gusarov and Foot get to Mikey Keene, and he ties the game just like that. And then 1:22 later, Lasician to Denmark to Joe Sakic. Goal number 18 of these playoffs. Second best mark in Stanley Cup playoff history. It's 3-2 Avalanche as the game has suddenly changed nearly 3 minutes into the second period. And now while the goaltending cyborg is in full throttle mode, so sorry, Scotty boy. Shut down, Mr. Straka. Go home, Garpenlov. It remains 3-2 after 2. The Avs again use the strategy to protect their lead, but there's no quit in the Panthers, but Waugh is shining through, leaving Huff in a huff. So long, Svela. Bet you wish you were still my teammate, Skrudlin. The clock counts down. The Panthers press, but the Avs hang on. Their most trying game yet in these finals, and they still survived. And now have a commanding 3-0. Seriously, they're just 1 win away from glory. A 3-2 win. Again, the Avs every which way had their forwards and defensemen doing everything they had to. Sakic, another game winner. Just an absolute beast in these playoffs. Claude Lemieux's return certainly paid dividends as well. From the night belonged to the gamble they made early this season. Patrick Roy, 32 saves and playing with that trademark determination. And now, again, the Avalanche are oh so close, but we're erasing the negative labels that have followed them for so long in Quebec. Game 4 in Miami, but the Panther fans are still rabid and are rooting for the improbable. And the Panthers themselves are making it known they're not quitting. However, the day of the game, Patrick Roy is under the weather. But if he's not going to let a collarbone injury or an appendectomy keep out of playoff action, he's certainly not going to sit this one out. And both he and Beezer are gearing up for a goaltending showdown for the ages. Both teams are playing pretty tight early on, but the 2 all-star netminders were making the stops. It looked as if the Avs were going to strike first, as Ricci made a great wraparound setup to Foot, but Beezer robs him. The Panthers got a chance at a rebound after a shot on Waba, stopped by number 33, but then he made a huge save on the Panthers' next chance as both goalies were just in top form. The first period ended scoreless. Second period, Lemieux launched a nice shot, but Beezer was there and the Avs couldn't capitalize on the rebound. On the other side, Gordon Murphy began an onslaught and the Panthers were all over St. Patrick. They made save after save and they just could not solve them as the tension was getting to both teams at this point. Waugh says, "Frig off, Fitzgerald." I say, "Nay, nay, Niedermayer." But on the other hand, Beezer is stopping Sakic, Forsberg, and others. After 2 periods, it's still scoreless. Third period, the Avs are killing a penalty. Shorthanded 3-on-1, and Beezer stops them again. Loose puck, and they still can't get it in the net. On the other end, Stu Barnes is in control of the puck, trying to find the best man to get it to. And yes, he sees Scotty Mellenby right in front of the net. Waugh stops it. Oh my goodness. The Panthers are pressing with under a minute to go. The puck is set up for Shepherd. Side of the net, and Waugh stops it. Time ticks down, and we are going to overtime. A goal for the Avs wins it all. A goal for the Panthers keeps them alive another day. OT is underway. The Avs are pressing. Stefan Yell is battling hard for puck possession. He finally gets it away to Ozolic alone on goal, and Beezer stops it with his glove. You gotta be kidding me! The goal light also came on. So many thought it was over here. While on the other end is giving Florida fans anxiety. Save on Jobo, Melambino, Woolino, and the time ticks down. It's still scoreless out on the first overtime. We now go to double overtime. The Avs onslaught results in hitting the crossbar. The Panthers still press and press and press, and Waugh stops and stops and stops. At this rate, it just might come down to who tires out first. It may have to be that way to garner a winner. Double OT winds down there. Still no winner. During the intermission, a story that has been told a few times, that Waugh stood up in the locker room and said something along the lines of, "Guys, this is enough now." While trying to be serious, the timing of it seemed comical to his teammates, but in a way it seemed to loosen them up a little bit. And now we're off to triple OT. And now, let me allow the great Gary Thorne to take over.
Young moving to the middle. Young the shot, and it went off the glass high over the net. Mellanby trying to clear, didn't get it out. Sakic held it in, still held in. Uwe Krupp shot, score! The Colorado Avalanche have won the Stanley Cup!
Indeed, Uwe Krupp is the hero. As the Panthers failed to clear the puck, it landed on a stick, and he just fired it from the blue line, launching it and made its way into the net. The Colorado Avalanche 1996 Stanley Cup champions. The sweep is complete. What a clinic from both goaltenders, as Waugh made a remarkable 63 saves, stopping every single shot he faced for perhaps the most important shutout of his career. Despite the sweep, the Panthers didn't make the last 2 games easy. But for the Avalanche, the dream has come true. They are winners. While they may not be in Quebec anymore, in a way, you can't even call the Nordiques losers anymore. What a glorious moment it was for Joe Sakic. Before this year, never having won a single playoff series. And now this, his 8th season, he lifts that glorious silver barrel over his head as a team captain. Forever proving that C on his jersey is not a fashion statement. He has lived up to that long-time promise. Fans cheered watching on the big screens in Denver at McNichols Arena, and in Quebec City, households and bars everywhere were going crazy as well, still feeling this was indeed their team. For Patrick Waugh, he lifted the Stanley Cup for a 3rd time in his career. But more than anything, he was lifting a weight off his shoulders, a weight that weighed him down all year. His dramatic exit to Montreal, to his arrival in Denver, to doubt about what he could really do. For everyone, it was something different. Peter Forsberg in his 2nd season, his star-making season as a champion. His fellow Olympian, champion Valery Kamensky and Valsville countryman, and also an Olympic champ, blue liner Alexei Kucherov achieved Stanley Cup glory. The 3rd time, 2nd straight season, Claude Lemieux tastes the champagne. Another gamble that paid off. Scott Young, while an asset for the Pens at 91, was counted on much more for this one and delivered. Uwe Krupp becomes an even bigger hero in a country where he is already revered, and finally was a Stanley Cup under 10 years in the NHL and scored a goal that forever goes down in history. Mike Ricci, again, Forsberg, one of the last remnants of the Lindros trade, now has his name etched on this immortal award. For Mike Keane, who himself has had a trying year, it's redemption at its finest. For other role players such as Dave Hannon, while sadly he didn't get the dress in Game 4, still played 3 games in the final, a chance he did not get in Edmonton back in 1988, but he still celebrates jubilantly with his team. Oslinch, again, they sacrificed a lot, but he proved to be worth it. Curtis Lasician suffered many years along with Sakic, finally gets his due. Foote, Clem, Lefebvre can all call themselves champions for the first time. Adam Deadmarsh, that secret weapon who became not so secret as the season went on. Hard worker Stefan Yell. People like Chris Simon, Warren Reichel, and running Corbet also finally win the championship. For head coach Marc Crawford, who faced his critics head on, he got the last laugh. That's the GM Pierre Lacroix. In their first year in this new city, just like that, hockey was now a big game. The town in the city of Denver. Peter Forsberg came alive with his outstanding performance in Game 2, where all 3 of his goals came from. He added 2 assists coming in Games 1 and 3. That ties him for the lead scoring in these Stanley Cup Finals. And he's tied with, who else? Joe Sakic. A goal, which was a game winner, and 4 assists, which all came in Game 1 in 5 games. Game 2, easy for me to say. Oh, yeah. And again, Mr. Clutch. This has truly been a historic run for our man from Burnaby. And yes, Adam Deadmarsh, 3rd in team scoring with his 4 helpers. The role he has played with his team all year, again, does not get the recognition it deserves, even though fans of Denver do love him. Claude Lemieux, after his 2-game suspension, he returned with a vengeance in Game 3. Mike Ricci wasn't afraid to square up with gritty forwards. Valery Kamensky was very productive as per usual. Same goes for Scott Young. Rennie Corbet is an unexpected hero in Game 2. Mike Keen's Stanley Cup experience paid off well. Hannon and Yellen Reichel, hey, they pulled their weight. Adam Foote was absolutely ferocious out there on every shift, hungry to take control of a rush and block Florida onslaughts, and making his presence felt, led the team with a +5 in this Cup final. And while he's known for that game winner forever in the annals of Denver, Uwe Krupp actually played great overall in the finals and did lead all defensemen in scoring with 2 goals and an assist for 3 points. Alexei Gusarov certainly earned his keep as well, while Sandy Sozolich played well. John Clem had a big performance in Game 2, while Sylvain Lefebvre was tremendous, and Curtis Lasician was out there determined to be a winner at long last. And just how outstanding was Patrick Waugh, especially Games 3 and 4, the latter of which has gone down in infamy. His 0.84 goals against average, less than a goal, is truly remarkable. It's the 5th best mark of all time in a Stanley Cup Finals series. The playoff clutch netminder may have very well cemented himself as the best playoff goalie of all time with this performance. The Avs wanted the wall from '93 in these playoffs. Well, they got it, especially in these finals. Waugh is only behind 4 goaltenders for his goals against average in these finals. One of them is one of his childhood idols, Rogie Vachon from 1969. Tied with Rogie is Clint Benedict of the 1926 Montreal Maroons, and ahead of them, Alec Connell from the 1927 Senators. And still holding the record, even to this day, is Terry Sawchuk in 1952 with a 0.50, half a goal a game. The only ones who have come close to Waugh's mark, however, is Jonathan Quick of the Kings with 1.10 in 2012, and Tim Thomas of the Bruins the year before in 2011 with 1.15. Waugh broke the record of Rogie Vachon from 1969, who had a .972 save percentage, as Waugh still holds strong with a 9.74. It looked like Sergei Bobrovsky of the Panthers in 2024 was closing on it before the Panthers would lose 3 straight games in the finals. Again, Tim Thomas is the only one who's even come close with an impressive 9.67 in 2011. While Jacques Plante, like Waugh, another Habs icon, rounds the list at 4 and 5 with his performances in the 1957 and 1960 finals, respectively. That was, of course, during the Habs 5 straight Cup dynasty. The Colorado Avalanche, just 1 year in Denver, became the first professional sports team in the history of the city to win a major championship. But their luck would start to rub off on the Denver Broncos, who went back-to-back Super Bowls in 1997 and 98, and would win another later on in 2015. It took a very long time for the Denver Nuggets to finally reach glory, but they actually finally did so by winning their first NBA championship in 2023. The Colorado Rockies have made it to a World Series, but that was back in 2007, and they have yet to win the big one. As for the Avalanche, well, they've won 2 more cups since 1996. Of course, the most recent being in 2022, guided by general manager Joe Sakic. And now, we take a look at the final numbers. Joe Sakic, to very little surprise, dominated the team in scoring 18 goals, 16 assists, 34 points in all 22 games of these playoffs. Sometimes he was outright dominant, and he was always consistent. Clutch heroics plus focus and determination, and his leadership skills made him a playoff legend in 1996. Valery Kamensky finished second in team scoring with 10 goals and 12 assists for 22 points, averaging a point a game. He's a major force in the opening round series against the Canucks, but his best was definitely in the second round against the Blackhawks. Despite a couple of rough games in the Red Wings series, he had some memorable performances there as well, and was sharp again in the finals. Peter Forsberg finished third in team scoring with 10 goals, 11 assists for 21 points in all 22 games. He was outright dominant in the opening round, but his scoring touch was lacking in the Chicago series. But he had his game again in the conference final, but was fully alive again in the Stanley Cup final. Mike Ricci gained a scoring touch in these playoffs, was a major factor in the big upset over the Wings. Though Lemieux didn't quite have the same scoring touch as he did the year prior for the Devils, but still played big in many games. The secret weapon, Adam Bedmarsh, truly showed he is a big part of this team's backbone. Scott Young made some tremendous plays and was key in some of the biggest setups in these playoffs. Mike Keane came alive in the conference finals in his checking abilities and was great in the Stanley Cup as well, as he's known to do. Rennie Corbet also came up big in certain games, especially in Game 2 of the finals. Stefan Yell was pure heart out there in big situations. Chris Simon did well providing toughness despite missing most of the conference final and all of the Stanley Cup. Warren Reichel, however, picked up some slack. Dave Hannon, he was hustling out there as well. And of course, Sakic's 34 points were the best in the entire playoffs. His 18 goals were also best of the playoffs and was tied for second with Mario Lemieux in assists this postseason for 16. Kamensky's 22 points and Forsberg's 21 were 4th and 5th best respectively. Coming at 9th was Avs defenseman Sandy Zozelinch with 19 points, while reaching at Denmarsh's 17 points were tied for his Dave Lowry for 10th best. Sakic's 18 goals as of 2024 is still the 3rd best of all time in a single postseason, only behind Jari Kurri and Reggie Leach's 19 each. Kurri reached the mark in the Cup-winning team with Edmonton in 1985. Leach did so in a losing cause for the Flyers in 1976, but was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner that year. The only one who has come close since Sakic's mark reaching these numbers was Zach Hyman of the Oilers in 2024 with 16. Joe Sakic's 6 game-winning goals broke a record previously held by Mario Lemieux for the Pens in '92, Mike Bossy for the Isles in '83, Jari Kurri for the Oilers in '87, and Bobby Smith of the North Stars in 1991, who each had 5. Joe Nieuwendyk, who I have covered on this channel, tied the record with his incredible heroics in 1999 with 6. Brad Richards, however, broke the record for Tampa Bay in 2004, and as of 2024 still holds it with 7. Alexei Gusarov leads the Avalanche with a +13. He was outstanding in these entire playoffs, and again does not get the credit he deserves. His best hockey definitely ever came in the conference finals against the Wings. Again, knowing what the Russian 5 is capable of, especially since he played alongside 4 of them for quite a spell, winning some international championships alongside them, with the exception of Kozlov, but he's able to read much of their strategies. Ozelinch does get a lot of credit, not that he doesn't deserve it. As you saw, he made the top 10 in playoffs, scoring at number 9 with his 19 points, 5 goals, and 14 assists, which of course means he led all defensemen in scoring in these playoffs. Again, proving that risk paid off for the Avalanche acquiring him early in the season. He was great in the first round, an absolute beast in the second. UA Krupp, who was the Avs weren't even sure we're going to be getting for the playoffs this year, injured in the first game, was amazing. He too was great in the first 2 rounds, was good in the conference final, but was tremendous in the Stanley Cup. Adam Foote, however, became a made guy in these playoffs, and he was seen as a type of player that would be a coach's dream going forward. Curtis Lasician played like a man determined, nothing but winning on his mind. John Clem proved to be a great value in these playoffs. Sylvain Lefebvre's playoff experience paid off, and despite Craig Willen's exit from these playoffs in the second round, he played very well in the opening round against the Canucks. Gustarov's +13 led the entire Stanley Cup playoffs, a huge distinction, and again showing just how important he was to this club. Adam Foote and Valery Kamensky tied for second with a +11, while Forsberg and Sakic were fourth with a +10, alongside Florida's Stu Barnes, while Adam Denmarsh's +8 put him in a 4-way tie for 8th in this category. Patrick Waugh played all but 40 seconds in these Stanley Cup playoffs, finishing with a 16-6 record with an incredible 2.10 goals against average, a great .921 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. Waugh brought a ton of media attention with his controversial departure from Montreal and arrival in Colorado. Some had already written Waugh off as yesterday's news, but he had the last laugh with Stanley Cup number 3, cementing his legacy as one of the all-time great playoff goaltenders. Since the Stanley Cup playoffs switched to the opening round, going best of 7 back in 1987, the mark for any team to win a cup is, of course, 16 wins. Waugh became the first goaltender to reach the mark twice, of course, with his victory doing so in '93 and this year. As of 2024, he and Martin Brodeur, a fellow Hall of Famer, who lived up to Waugh in his teen years, are the only goaltenders to reach 16 playoff wins 3 times. Waugh's 3 shutouts, of course, led the playoffs. Also, Waugh was okay in the first round, but it was really the second round series against Chicago that lit a fire under him. And again, of course, that infamous soundbite responding to Jeremy Roenick definitely motivated him in a lot of ways. So now comes the decision. Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP. Who does it go to? I mean, as outstanding as Waugh was, okay, let's face it, we all know who deserves it. But either way, let's hit that drum roll. Was there ever any doubt? Joe Sakic had one of the greatest playoff performances of all time. And to think, again, I can't stress this enough, even though I brought it up many times. Previous 7 seasons, only had 12 games of playoff experience. Never won a playoff series in his career before this year, despite being one of the best players in the entire league. And playoff hockey, the right team around him at long last came so naturally to him. And with great humility and class, accepted the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP. But for him, it was all about what the team and he did together. This Colorado Avalanche team has 4 Hall of Famers, 3 players and a builder. First to go was Patrick Roy, his first year of eligibility in 2006. At the time of his retirement, he held league records for wins and games played as a 2024 so the all-time leader in playoff wins. He is currently the head coach of the New York Islanders. Joe Sakic got in on his first year of eligibility as well in 2012. After playing a total of 20 NHL seasons, at the time of his retirement he was 8th all-time in points and currently sits in 9th as of the end of the 2023-24 season. And also, as of that time, he was just one of 20 players in the 107-year history of the NHL to score 600 goals. As I mentioned before, he is currently the GM of the Colorado Avalanche. Peter Forsberg also made it in his first year of eligibility in 2014. Forsberg, however, was hampered by numerous injury issues toward the end of his career, perhaps preventing him from being even greater than he had already become. Despite this, however, as the end of the 2023-24 season, Forsberg is tied for 8th all-time in the NHL for points per game. All 3 of these men were also named to the NHL's 100 all-time greatest players list in 2017. All 3 have also had their numbers retired by the Avalanche. Waz was also retired by the Habs. Pierre Lacroix, who sadly passed away in 2020, was inducted posthumously in the Hall of Fame as a builder in 2023. Lacroix stayed GM of the team until 2006, stayed on as team president until 2013. His risky big money trades paid dividends for the Avs more often than not during these glory years, and he was a major part of this team's success. However, there are some players fans still trying to make an argument for. First was Sandy Zozelich, who has been eligible since 2017. There was a time playing in the NHL All-Star Game was indeed an accomplishment. Ozo did it 7 times. He was a finalist for the Norris once. Now it should be a year after this. However, his staggering minus 44 is quite bad for defensemen in this era. But many point out his contribution to Latvia's hockey program, his success in the KHL, and the fact that he had 638 points in 875 games, which is actually excellent for a defenseman who mostly played in the dead puck era. More than ever in recent years, the Hall of Fame is looking more and more at international accomplishments, but I don't see his day coming anytime soon. Avalanche fans have also petitioned for defenseman Adam Foote to be in the Hall of Fame, and no doubt he's one of the greatest players in the history of that franchise. He was key in their success, played over 1,150 NHL games. His number has been retired by the club as well. He's been eligible since 2014. Despite a lack of NHL accolades, some feel he didn't get the credit he deserved as a traditional gritty stay-at-home defenseman. He does have a gold medal and a World Cup of Hockey to his name for Team Canada. However, he only got votes for the Norris twice, never finishing higher than 10th. And while I agree he was grossly underrated, the Hall won't give him a look anytime soon. A case could be made, however, for Valeri Kamensky, as while his NHL career was very good, with just over 500 points in 637 games, injuries did hamper him late in his career. His international accolades could be his ticket in. 3 world golds, a silver, a bronze, and an Olympic gold medal, and a silver each to top it off. To top it off, he was a key component for the infamous 87 Soviet team at the Canada Cup. And while he may not have had the success such as fellow countrymen Fetisov Larionov and Sergei Makarov, who are all in the Hall of Fame, and had short NHL careers themselves with international success, Kamensky is in the IIHF Hall of Fame, and again, that could be something to play to his advantage. And okay, well, this might get some laughs. Arguments have been made for Claude Lemieux. Yes, he was a fantastic hockey player who could give any team he played for an edge. And I'll flat out say when it comes to clutch players in the playoffs, I'll boldly say he's top 10 in that regard. As a matter of fact, his 19 playoff game winners is tied for 3rd all-time with Joe Sakic. His 379 regular season goals are nothing to sneeze at either. He was a guy you'd want on your team, a guy you hated when he wasn't. But despite how important he was to the clubs he played for, he's a guy simply in the Hall of Very Good. Again, that's not a terrible thing, but he'll never really be looked at for the Hall of Fame. I'd say of these 4, Kamensky has the best chance, with Ozolinsh maybe having a very slim one. Well, that indeed does it for our 2-part look at the 95-96 Colorado Avalanche. Who would you like us to cover once hockey season commences? Winners, losers, best, worst, in between, does not matter. Leave a suggestion in the comments. Like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'll see ya!